you know, for me, I think we need to, in our cluster, clean up our situation with our permits.
If I'm doing the audit, I'll give Duet the list, but I can tell you right now, there's no unit in your cluster that has more than 2 stickers. There is none.
Well, I'll be very
There's no unit that has more than 2 stickers?
Right.
In cluster 2, no, there is not. They may have been
Okay,
given them
great.
in the past, but they were deactivated
Yeah,
if they
because,
ever were.
I mean,
Right, okay, that's good.
okay, I mean, I can only go by what I've seen.
But then that means cluster 2 wouldn't have to do over the stickers then?
Well,
Correct.
After my audit, we'll see. I don't think so, but can you hang on 1 second, because Susan's still talking. I know you can't hear that far real well. Go ahead.
Okay, and the other thing is that I worked on with Duet, and I came up with quite a few people that we felt, both of us, by me explaining some history and knowing where the people are and knowing for, I'm sorry, I'm a little, but of vetting. And I don't know if you've gotten those emails and how, I'm assuming that she's the director, that will go to her as a director to work on those people that do need to be vetted and aren't vetted.
Off topic. Vehicle audit right now. Let's
Okay.
stay on that.
Okay, because some of those people that are not vetted, that I know, are having cars. Okay, so that's why I brought that up.
Sit down, Susan.
That's part of my audit, to make sure they're all in there.
Okay,
Just let me do it.
Janet from Cluster 5. I just want to ask real quickly, in case I missed it or whatever. We have somebody in Cluster 5 where the owner owns it, doesn't come down anymore, rents it to somebody, has been renting it to somebody for years. I'm assuming the person has the application, everything. She doesn't have a sticker on her thing, she just has that yellow pass, which of course means nothing now. So how does she get her sticker so that when she comes back next year in January and she's here till May?
can I answer that? Okay. So because they're gonna stay through May, they're gonna be there for more than 14 days.
Yes.
Even this year, they're gonna have to go through the vetting process. So they'll have to put in an application. As soon as we get this settled tonight, I'm about to talk to them tomorrow, depending on what we decide tonight. So they will have to put in an application.
But she's been coming here for like 10 years, so I'm guessing there's been an application put in.
Well,
I can check, I have them back.
yeah, we can
Okay.
check on that.
Okay, I'm just
Yep,
asking.
yep,
Thank
and
you.
I'll answer the question.
Okay.
Alright, so take a vote on this audit, or whatever you want. I mean, not on the audit, or
Okay, so I'll make a motion that, the directors continue to work with Janet. Please. Making a motion that the directors continue to work with Janet to bring into line the car registrations based on the vetting of the people that are actually supposed to be residents here. They continue that process. We keep the stickers that we have. We eliminate the ones that were mistakenly given out and work through the list.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. That's proposed.
Opposed?
We didn't hear from Duet or Robin, they need to be in favor or opposed.
Aye.
You're in favor or opposed, Duet?
She said aye.
In favor.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Robin?
Robin?
She's muted. Shake your head, Robin, we can hear you.
She said that wasn't.
Says
I
yes.
said I'm in favor.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Charlie, Nancy, and anyone, you said anyone opposed, right?
Yeah, he asked for that, no one
I'll put you on the painting.
No?
All right, motion passes. Charlie, cluster 5 painting.
Okay, I have, 3 bids from the same specifications. Somebody that's gone through the painting thing knows that, paint company comes up with a set of specifications, and then they bid based on that set of specifications. I've got Sherway coming in at 40,600. I've got, CST Decor coming in at 54,400. And I've got, Red Door coming in at 44,05. I watched the work down on one by Sherway. I believe they're a good contractor. So I would recommend that we go with Sherway at a price of $40,600 for painting cluster 5.
Make a motion?
I'll hope that we hire.
Can I ask a question first? Are they licensed and insured? I know they're not in the DVPR. And 17, my understanding, and 718, they are supposed to be in the DVPR in order,
Can you show us where it says that?
I don't have 718 with me, it's a big one.
I have
I
He's got
asked
it.
for that, the other day because I've been all through it and I did find it in one section
Yep.
that has to do with reinsurance after a, insurable,
But you know where it's at? Because here's the copy.
I don't know the
Yeah.
exact page, and I know that's a long one.
they're
Okay.
required to be, yeah, it's not in there.
They're required to be in there.
Yeah.
She knows it, I know
No,
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 wait
no,
a minute.
no,
You
no.
should come prepared then, you should bring it.
718 is,
Yeah,
does
like
not
I
require it,
never prepared.
it, board members should use licensed and insured individuals.
Right, and I'm
If
asking
you do
if
not,
they are.
if you do not, then you open the
The
collective association to liability,
Right.
not just your cluster,
Right.
because they're not gonna sue just your cluster, they're going to sue the entire.
They've painted other clusters, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
But
Just
are
haven't
they
finished one.
licensed, bonded, and insured?
Bonded wasn't in there, licensed and insured.
Are they licensed and insured?
As far as I know.
Well, it's easy to ask them for a copy of their license and insurance. Real simple.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'll look in my proposal that I got from, because they had all kinds of
Right.
information.
They
in
probably would include it in
I
the
think it
proposal.
was-
Yeah.
It might be there if you scroll down to the
Yeah.
last couple pages, but it doesn't do that.
Or
I've
it
got
could
it.
be at the top of the page where their license number on it. I'm just asking.
So we have a motion,
I'll motion to, well,
I'll second.
oh,
Charlie
Yeah, no.
motioned to adopt the Shoreway. Nancy
Yeah.
brought up the insurance during the
Yeah, but
discussion.
do-
Who
do-
seconded Charlie's
do
motion?
we know?
Michael?
Do we know if they're licensed and insured?
Well,
I mean, how can we vote on
I'd
it?
be
Well-
surprised if they weren't, because
I would
here,
too.
let's,
Because they do
can we,
yours?
can we add to the motion that we accept,
Can we accept it with?
can we accept it with proof of insurance and,
Can we do
and
that,
licensing?
Janet?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
So just
that-
have to
that
provide proof of
satisfies that
insurance.
requirement.
okay?
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'm just looking for their email, but.
Yeah, I think.
Your deck replacement,
Oh,
consideration of cluster 5's deck replacement.
Wait, I want to stay on that. If they don't, do you want an alternative or you just want to come back?
No, I want to come back.
Okay.
Okay, replacement of the, south deck, this is our last one. We have bids from Complete Spectrum Painting for $10,800 and from Island, for $10,586. We had some work done by Complete Spectrum and I had a lot of problems with him, had to come back and he still hasn't fixed it on the north one. So I'm gonna throw that one out, and, Island did the work down on one, and I inspected it, and they did some excellent work down there to replace that upper deck, so.
Two, one, two.
Oh, two, sorry,
Put it on
yeah.
two.
And, so I would move that, we accept Island's bid for the replacement of the upper deck for $10,586.40.
Is there a
So does
second?
that then go all the way across the front of your building, like the one in the back?
Wait, there's a motion out, is there a second? Is this a live motion?
I'll second.
Second, okay, all right, go ahead, Nancy, sorry.
Okay, so it's on that side,
Right.
it's the long, you know,
Does it go across the whole front of the building?
well, yeah. basically.
And they're doing all of that for $10,000.
Yeah.
How in the hell did he get $35,000 for that little teeny piece of cluster?
Okay, so,
I'm just confused.
okay, this is just replacing the,
Balusters.
balusters. It's
Oh, the
not-
two-by twos, okay.
Yeah, it's not going in underneath and replacing the whole base and all that.
Cause your base is concrete, ain't it?
Yeah, right.
What about the stairs?
Stairs have already been done, so it's not the stairs
Oh,
either.
okay.
So
That
it's-
makes- then I
plus
understand.
it doesn't
Okay.
include the painting contract on it either.
Okay, then I understand.
Okay.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Discussion on parking and security signs. Charlie?
oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so, cluster one installed some parking signs and, they did not get approval from the board to, put up these signs, so,
Well-
signs need to be taken down.
No.
And, the board, or the organization reimbursed for the cost of the signs that were charged out.
Okay, may I speak?
Yes.
Everyone knows at this table that when this whole thing came up, and I'm not talking about you folks, because you probably don't know all this, because it went on in different meetings.
Right.
I have been vehemently opposed to this parking situation. However, I was told that they would leave cluster one alone so that my people could continue to park in cluster one and stay in cluster one. When I signed the contract, because I was acting president at the time, and they needed a new contract because Calvin had kind of quit us last spring. So we needed a new contract. And every time we talked about this, I was told, we're not taking any of your spaces, we're not taking any of your spaces, we're not taking any of your spaces. And every time they told me that, I said, and I'm gonna buy signs. And I'm putting up signs to keep it for my cluster. And that's it. I'm buying the signs. So, not a single one of them ever said, I can't buy signs to put up in my cluster. So I bought the signs. And now they're saying, you can't have the signs.
What meeting did you ask for?
Every single meeting
You
we
asked
had,
for approval?
that we talked, I never said approval, but nobody ever told me I couldn't have it.
We're on the board discussion part, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
So-
Tom told me, we're not touching your parking, we're not gonna touch it. I said, but I'm gonna still buy my signs, and he knows that. Michael, you knew it.
No,
Everybody who was sitting here heard me say it,
right,
that I'm buying the signs.
but
Because, well, I'm
I,
speaking, please.
go ahead.
So we bought the signs, we put them in. And now all of a sudden, somebody comes along and says it's an issue. Why didn't you open your mouth back 2 months ago before I opened them? Or were you willing to let me put my foot in the hole and just screw me over and then turn around and come along and say, you can't have those signs? Because that's crap. That is crap.
I will say something though.
Okay.
I realize that you did say, I want to get some signs,
Mhm.
but I never did
hear you make a motion that you.
I never
allowed
did.
to get those
I never
signed.
did, because nobody ever disagreed with me.
Right.
And I wasn't aware that I was gonna have to have a motion.
Cause I didn't think you'd really do it. Are you
Well,
kidding?
are you kidding?
So, I
Ed,
would
how
like-
well do you know? Not well at all.
Can I speak? I would
You
like
may.
to speak. Okay. I was at the same meeting that you were at. It was you, me, and Calvin, okay? You started talking about signs. This is the meeting where you signed the
Well, I
agreement.
signed the
Right.
contract.
We were talking about signage, and Calvin said, now here, all along, I'm thinking, you don't want anything, you don't want visitor painted anywhere, right? You don't want visitor painted. So, when you're talking to Calvin, he said, all right, you know what, and you asked him about signs, and he said, yeah, you know, we could put signs, instead of painting, you can put a sign that says visitor parking, and not have to paint it. But, when you mentioned at that meeting, when you said, well, I would like to have it for only cluster one's residents, and Calvin immediately said, that won't work.
I don't
And-
recall that.
No, I don't.
Okay,
I don't recall that, and I say
Oh, they
that,
don't
Michael,
recall it
I'm
either, but
honest
they
to
weren't
God,
there, okay?
I
So-
do not recall him
okay,
saying
well,
it
let me
is not
refresh your
going to
memory,
work.
let me
I'm
refresh your
listening.
memory, because, he gave you an example. He said that if someone, from your cluster parked anywhere on the property, which they can, because they have a legitimate sticker, right? They're vetted, whatever, they've got a
Correct.
legit sticker, they can park anywhere on the property. As soon as someone from another cluster comes and can't park at yours, he said it doesn't work. That doesn't work that way. You said you're opening yourself up for a lawsuit. And you know this, okay? You can deny it all you want.
I'm not denying
but we
anything,
were-
I'm simply saying, honest to God, Michael, I don't remember
Okay,
that
I'm sorry that you
conversation.
don't, but
Not
I'm-
at all. All I remember is how many times I said it sitting in here
But I think everyone is
with
thinking.
Tom or with everybody else.
You should ask them what
And
they
I
were
think what
thinking.
everyone is thinking is that they can't park in my cluster, but we can park in theirs.
No, but what everyone was thinking is that you want signs that say visitor, not painted.
Exactly.
That's
I
what.
told them what it was gonna say.
Yeah.
No.
I said out
So now
loud
wait.
what it was gonna say.
That's-
Okay, can I talk?
Do you, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, my recollection is the only time that signs were mentioned when you said, okay, we do not want it on the pavement, and the accommodation was made to say, okay, if you don't want your visitors' signs on the pavement, you can put them up in front of the cars.
Yeah.
That's the only time that you've ever been given any approval to put up a sign.
You're wrong, because you haven't been at all the meetings that I've been at.
Okay.
Tom has already,
Okay,
Tom was
these
very
are
well aware.
two people who have this recollection,
Yeah,
you have
you
your
two.
recollection.
I would like to
But-
say, I'd like to say one other thing, okay? Regardless, okay, you, of all people, admittedly, like to follow the rules, right? You like to do what's right. Cluster one declaration
I
says
understand,
that
no
you
signs.
cannot put
I
signs
understand,
without board
sir.
approval. So, why wouldn't you, why wouldn't you ask the board to say, hey, this is what I want to do? And let us,
Well, you know,
okay,
Michael-
what do they say? And then you could submit, you could say, here's the signs that I'd like to put up, and we could look at it and we could determine, well, you know, but you just put them up, and
Okay.
you used Abram on Pebble Springs time to do it.
And I used him to clean your steps, and I used him for
Yeah.
multiple things of Robin's on Pebble Springs time.
Right, because
Nobody
that's Pebble
was
Springs
billed.
business,
Nobody, and so is cluster one.
but not these signs because you don't have approval.
You got approval then.
What's
But
that?
it would be in,
This
it would
is-
be in the minutes.
Hey,
It would be in the minutes.
Open, when the board's done,
We-
we'll
when the
open it
board
up.
is done, we'll open this up
Be
to
done.
discussion. The board is discussing this at this moment in time, and that's all this is a discussion. This is nothing to vote on.
Sabotage.
It is not sabotage.
Oh, yes, it
We're
is.
just-
We put, I remember.
we're just
Tammy,
discussing-
Don't answer, it's
Tammy,
board discussion.
take it down,
We're
please.
just discussing. We're discussing a violation with the declaration.
There's no finding
How about the
committee.
violation on when they took the aluminum off the peaks
So,
and replaced it with cement? That was not approved. Was that approved?
No, it wasn't.
That was not
That's another
approved.
Hey.
one.
Stay on the discussion.
Yeah, this is-
So you guys better
This
think
is
about
just a
what you're
discussion.
saying.
Duet or Robin, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. No.
Alright, so what is the, solution? I mean, are you guys asking Nancy to just take them down, or what, or are you asking her to replace them with
Well,
visitor signs?
if she doesn't want visitor painted on 2 spots in her cluster like everyone else, she can have signs like this that say visitor.
No.
No, because that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was, you weren't gonna touch my parking
Well,
spaces.
what do
You
mean I
told me
wasn't?
that.
I did never
You
told you
me
that.
You're a liar.
Charlie said it.
Yes, I
alright,
was
here's-
a
here's-
liar.
This is
No,
getting
no,
hostile.
I never
No.
We're not gonna,
Just-
don't,
just-
and I
Don't
have
call
to
me a
collect
liar
one.
because I was at the same meeting
No.
you were at.
And you
okay?
didn't
know
listen.
that.
All right,
You and
all
I
right.
have talked many times about that.
Enough.
We can't call people for that, but.
Miss-
Oh, I will.
I have a couple questions. You have guests on these parking signs. So any of any guest can park in those parking signs.
Any guest of cluster 1.
Yeah, no, this doesn't
Yeah,
work.
And,
Right, that's the
and,
problem.
and that's, I won't say that's the problem. My question is how do you plan to enforce that? Are you expecting Calvin to tow?
I am not expecting Calvin to tow people who have the stickers
Okay,
on their cars.
what about guests?
And
Because there's no
delineation between them, I understand.
there's no yellow parking passes anymore.
I know.
So how is Calvin gonna determine if your guest doesn't have a sticker and doesn't have a parking pass? How is he to determine?
I'm gonna have to think about that one for a few minutes, because I don't honestly have an
Well,
answer to
you
you
should have
right
thought
now.
about
No,
that.
don't do that.
No,
I
that-
do
Keep
have-
it up, Michael.
I wanna say something to you, because we've talked, so I
Yes,
wanna
we
say it
have.
out loud, because, and I'm gonna point out, Laura thinks that I don't necessarily advise properly.
You don't.
You and I talked,
Mhm.
I'm not. You and I talked, and I told you that the board has a legal opinion saying that you cannot restrict those spots, and that you collectively have to make a decision together. And it was given back when this started about, 18 months ago or something to that effect, right?
No.
When there were other
No,
board
no,
members
no,
on.
no, no,
You were one of them,
It
because
was-
you were copied on the email, right, from the attorney?
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
as far as the easement? As
No,
far
we're-
as putting in an easement?
No, we're talking about the parking space, legal opinion and the follow-up email, which
Can I see that?
No, I don't have it, I'm
Okay.
just showing. I sent them to you a couple
That's
weeks ago
very
when you
well
asked.
maybe.
Yes.
I read a whole lot of emails, and
May I
honest to
finish?
God, I don't
May I
remember,
finish?
absolutely.
Okay, so I sent them to you, and I will remind you of when I sent them. They were in response to a correspondence that we received certified from a unit owner.
Okay,
Remember, and we were answering them back. And because that unit owner at the time was a board member, I said it's okay to share this in the response because that person had already been privy to it and knew that it was confidential legal information and it had already gone to that person. And I shared it with you.
I have to know which email.
And you said, I don't recall that. And I sent you both emails back.
Okay,
and
I
you asked
don't
for it.
remember.
Okay.
Because there's just too many that come through.
Okay, and where I'm getting is, as a board member, all of you, this goes for all 6, how many are you, 7? You have asked for a legal opinion, you have received a legal opinion, and ignoring it is to be considered willfully negligent. And if someone were to sue you for your actions, then you would, at that point, most likely not be defended by the DNO, because you've been given an opinion by the expert and chosen
And like
not
I
to
said, I
listen.
don't remember reading it. I will look for it,
So,
but I don't.
I can send it to you again, I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying, let's work on this,
That's
so that
just
you don't
fine.
put yourself in a position where you know,
That's just fine.
what's that?
no, I think we should give her an opportunity to take the signs down.
No.
No.
And if they refuse to take the signs down.
I
then
remember those people saying, we're leaving cluster 1.
Contractor to take them down, not Abram, but we hire someone and.
I did hear a comment from the audience, so I want to state out loud what I heard. I do remember the conversation where you said you would leave cluster 1 alone.
Exactly.
And that was,
Exactly.
excuse me, that was when we were discussing Calvin and the painting, because he had been out to paint, and I believe it was Nancy or someone else made a fuss, they had to stop, leave the
Yeah.
property, come
Yes.
back, and we said, we will not paint
Okay.
in cluster 1.
Right.
That has nothing to do with signage, that was painting
Okay.
on the ground.
Right.
Tom,
My
let me
only-
ask you a question,
Sure.
please. You and I and Edna stood right at that back table, looking at a map that you had showing all of the parking places. And I asked you, what are you gonna do with my cluster? Edna had already given up 6 spaces in her cluster at that point, correct?
Yeah, but I only have 4 of the ownership.
Well, you've only got 4 now because they reduced the number. And you said, we are not gonna touch cluster 1.
That's
We're
exactly
gonna
right.
leave it alone.
Right,
Okay, so you don't have any.
You are 100% correct.
yes.
We are gonna leave it alone. Calvin's not painting visitor on the
Exactly,
pavement.
but that
You
wasn't a
don't have to
clarification.
On the
add
pavement.
after the
But
fact.
that wasn't a clarification, Tom.
It wasn't,
Well,
no, it's added after the fact.
And I said, then I'm
What-
gonna go
what
ahead
do
and
you-
get my signs.
Well, no.
I'm
You,
gonna get
you
my
asked,
signs.
you asked me if,
What are you gonna do?
what am I gonna do if we're gonna paint visitor on
No,
the
I
pavement?
asked you what you were gonna do with cluster
fine.
1, and you said, we're not gonna do anything, we're gonna leave you alone.
That's,
And I said,
That-
okay, and I'm gonna order my
Na-
signs.
Nancy, that's not a blanket comment. You can't,
You don't get to add a caveat after the fact.
it's not a blanket, it's not a blanket response. Here's my question. How, with these signs, how do you want Kelvin
I have
to
told
tow
you,
your?
I need to give that some thought, and I can't think about that while I'm talking to you. So, give me a little bit of time.
What do you, and you didn't figure it out before you put the signs, how you're gonna
No,
deal
Marty,
with this?
that's my people.
That's
No.
inflammatory.
Is
Yes,
it?
yes,
Is it?
yes, yeah.
To me, for me to ask her that she didn't think about.
Yes,
It's your
because,
tone.
I mean, it's obvious that she didn't,
Yeah,
so
but
there's no need.
I'm not
It's
calling her a liar
Michael,
like she did
Michael.
to me.
I know,
Right.
Michael.
So,
Stop.
my tone.
Nancy, why,
I'm
you know,
simply saying, from what I understood, with all the times I stated what that sign was gonna say, over and over again,
Never,
that's because you don't listen.
yeah.
But anyway, all the times that I said what that sign was gonna say, not one of you ever came back and said, you cannot put that sign up. You cannot.
Well-
So, my understanding was,
I personally do not recall a time that you stated this was the sign that you were gonna put up.
that is verbatim what I
I-
have told you 12 times.
Outside of that sign being put up, I've never seen a copy of that sign.
I didn't have a copy of the sign, because I had to order them online.
Oh,
And they don't send you proofs or anything like that to look at like
Oh.
a normal company would. They don't send you anything. It's just like you put it on there.
but there at least be
That's
a,
what you
can I,
get.
can we go,
It's ridiculous.
this is not a consideration, we're not gonna make any motions here on this. You have made a board member aware that they are not only breaking a violation, I have also reminded them that there is a legal opinion on this, and I will send that to Nancy so she can be refreshed.
Okay.
Okay? There's no motion here.
Say I can't make a motion?
no.
No.
We're just making it aware
Okay.
But we're
that
gonna,
we're breaking a
ask
legal
Nancy
opinion
to
and the
address this.
declaration.
That's right, we're gonna ask Nancy to address
I'm gonna
this.
make a motion for the next meeting, put it on the agenda and make a
For
motion.
what?
For what?
Yeah.
Let me
Take the
ask you
signs
why
down.
you have such a
Take-
hard on.
Mother, stop.
There's no motion to be made.
Well,
We'll have,
Next
if,
meeting, it
we
can
can
be
get
on
rid
the
of the
agenda.
signs then.
I have a question. Are you ever gonna open it up for those of us who are here that it actually affects? So you listen to us instead of the fighting that goes on here,
So
like a
what-
bunch of
What I
children?
would like
No,
to.
We're still, the board's
Shut
still
up.
talking, Laura.
This is ridiculous.
What I would like to, what I'd
Noted.
like to say is that,
It's like, we're, have a meeting, have it on, we're not talking about that, so I'm still,
her reimbursement,
But
she submitted.
They were like Ukraine, where else?
And it was because every
Prior to-
single one of my people knew it was coming, and they knew it was coming out of our budget.
But we didn't.
I don't have to have a $600 expenditure approved by you.
No, not an expenditure, but when you want to violate your declaration, you should have approval, or when you want to go and. if
I
you-
don't think she was thinking I'm violating the
I didn't,
declaration
I wasn't
and I'm
thinking
gonna
of
go ahead and
violating
do it.
Yeah,
anything.
Where's signage
But
in our
it's
budget?
been brought to our attention now.
Where's signage?
I don't
in
have
our
a
budget?
reserve budget for signage.
Okay.
Do you?
Can we move on?
No, that's why
No.
I'm not putting
At
on
this
sign
point,
for it.
I'm sorry
It's on
until
the
it's
agenda,
settled,
so
no.
people get to have,
Don't like it, leave.
they get to make comments, so
Okay,
open the
let's
floor
take
and we're
comments.
done.
All right.
Let me make, okay, go ahead.
Are we done?
No, for the time being.
Okay. We'll open the floor to any comments if you want to comment.
First of all, Charlie should not have any say on whether or not that money is paid back because it was paid out of Cluster 1's budget. You are not in charge of that budget, and if the owners in Cluster 1 approved it, you don't get to dictate whether or not she gets reimbursed or not. That is not your decision. Stop digging through all the invoices. Get a life. Number 2, we were told repeatedly, it was our parking spot, you are not going to take our parking spots, and now you're adding it back in because you don't like the signs. Period. If you would have bothered enforcing the rules along the way, you wouldn't have the issues that you have with parking right now. But instead, you're going after Cluster 1 because we've got signs and we don't want everybody parking in our spots when we have a limited number of them. We
Which
put
is the
signs up
reason why
to
they did not
protect our
put
property.
visitor on our
Period.
spot.
We put signs up to protect our property. Whether or not that money gets reimbursed has nothing to do with any of you but the people in Cluster 1. It is our decision. How that money is spent is our decision, not yours. Not yours and not yours. Your clusters can tell you how to spend the money, but we can't, and we shouldn't be in a position where you get to have an opinion on how our money is spent. If you're paying for the stuff in our cluster, you have an opinion. If you're not, you need to stop. It's none of your business how we're spending our money. Period.
I have something to say.
Sure.
We've been here almost 2 hours, and what have we accomplished?
We got the
And
rules
it's
adopted.
all about parking. It's all about our parking. We are a 50-year-old plus property. We have a lot of infrastructure issues in this property. And we're worried about frickin' cars and where they're gonna park. I'm sorry, it's insane, and I make a motion to fire TomCom. Whatever, it's ComTom.
Conto?
Because it's ridiculous to argue about frickin' parking.
Anyone else?
Any other comments? Okay. Huh?
You want me to answer the first, or do you want to wait?
Go ahead.
Okay. There was also a legal opinion, though I don't think it needed to be done, but at some point here at Pebble Springs, what happened was, and I think it was back when they put in the amendment to the election where you had to, when the owners are electing a representative for the board, that they have to elect someone from their cluster, unless, of course, no one comes available, right? Comes forward. I think that people at that time took that to mean that that director would have sole say over that cluster. And again, since I took over with EJ, we have slowly been changing things back to the statutory way, regardless of whether people think I don't give guidance. And one of those things is that there is a board of 7 that manages all 7 parts of Pebble Springs. There is no Cluster 1 owners voting on just Cluster 1 stuff unless it's a material change to your buildings or your election of your director. there is no cluster 5 director, which is why I made Charlie bring his proposals tonight, deciding which painter he wants to use without the board having some say in it. Nancy brought up a good point, asking about the license and insured. These are decisions that I don't know how many years, and they have been like this, where one director is handling their building unless they need a vote of the board. And that is 100% incorrect. And again, and I'll share it with you tomorrow if you don't have a copy of it, there is a legal opinion that was provided to a previous board on that very matter. And the attorney has offered to meet with the board and go over the legalities and the pitfalls to that process if you're all, well, I think you're all interested. I think we've kind of tossed that around. But there is no, and I'm going to use your words, Laura, just because it was tonight, there is no, it's cluster 1, it's not your business. The cluster 1 budget is the business of all 7 board members. The master budget is the business of all 7 board members. The expenses for cluster 3 are the business of all 7 board members, etc. Now, at some point, if you have amongst yourselves identified that anything under 2,000 within the budget, there is a line item, however you want to define it, and give that cluster director the right to make all decisions on their cluster to that point, then you can do that. But I have not seen that anywhere in the minutes. And I went back as far as the amendment where you put in that you must elect a cluster director from each cluster. So I think that there was some confusion as to what was amended and put in the documents, in the bylaws, versus what people thought that meant. So as I said, there is a legal opinion out there, and I'll share it with you tomorrow, Nancy.
I have a question for Edna. Do you know of a limit of that? I was under the impression it was a couple $1,000s.
Through the years, the limit has been changed at different times.
Okay.
The last time that I know that it was changed, it was 2,000. So like if I had, like, ideally, you would still get 3 quotes, and you could present it to the board, and many people do. But like, especially if it's like an emergency or whatever, it's less than 2,000. Usually, even then, I still okay it with CNS, say this, I need to get this done. But
And again, you might ask, but we do not approve. We work for you.
yes.
That has come up recently, as you all know from the emails. I work at the behest of the board. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to point you in the right direction. There are times when I say things and people ignore. There are times when I say things and people interpret the wrong way. And yes, I'm pointing at different ones for different things, right? And you interpret them in a different way. I'm still going to give the advice. I am not, I'm not interested in people who read the statute and interpret it themselves. I am telling you what I know, and when I don't know it, I advise you who to ask, be it your attorney, your insurance, your whatever. The comments are not necessary. I've done a fairly good job, I think the board will agree, for giving you advice here. But at any point, and I want to say this because it's come up, at this juncture here, if I'm going to give advice and the board collectively, not individually, not Nancy, not anyone else, but if I'm going to give advice and you're going to ignore it, and I am going to get feedback for it, I am not interested in managing Pebble Springs. I'm not. So I want you to keep that in consideration. It was suggested that maybe you've been with us too long and it's time to look for another management company or another manager. I can tell you CNS is not going to put another manager in Pebble Springs. If I can't make you happy, we are not the management company for you. So keep that in the back of your heads for, whatever, as the emails come in. But I will say this matter here on the signage, the parking, all this stuff, you have got to start making decisions together as a board and not individually for your clusters, because if you were in that practice, Nancy wouldn't be where she is right now, Charlie wouldn't be where he is right now, or Robin with the Gables. It wouldn't have happened, because it would have been at the board meeting, and you all would have been discussing it before doing it.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
With that statement that you just made, are you acknowledging the fact that gables were stuccoed without a material change authorization from any of the owners?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, I heard that from you. And that's fine, and it may be, I haven't looked into it, you know, we were just talking about it. I do know that there are other gables within the community that have been
Are
stuccoed. I
but
don't
not
know.
on those buildings.
Right, and I don't know how that interprets with the statute. I know that you need to make a material change with a vote of the owners. I don't know if they did or didn't, and I don't know if it's already done on one building, do we now need a vote on the others, or is it acceptable? I'll use Edna's conversation with myself as the windows. There was a time when the board required, they were white windows, then they required the bronze, and now some people want to go back to white, and there's not a standard color. And that has been going on, and that might be the same with the gables. So that is something, if you want an honest answer to that, we are gonna have to go to the attorney and get an opinion. Maybe not a full, legal opinion, but